as we continue our conversation on the IBB's new book that has taken the country by storm. I'm sure the issues in that book will dominate discussions for a long time to come. But look at the flip side about the number of people who attended serving presidents, ex-president, ex-president. I mean, businessmen,
captains of industry.
Captains of, I mean, the who is who in Nigeria. And someone said, why did Mr. President, attend that event? As if forgotten that this was the same man who made him to leave Nigeria, maybe by foot to
Right.
US to avoid. Yeah, quite interesting.
Okay, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say on that day, the reviewer of the book, former president of Nigeria, actually did a very funny joke to the president, and he was just out there laughing. He talked about what happened during IBB's tenure and how he dealt with the now president Tinubu.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see that the tormentor and the other guys, they're all out there together in the same place, laughing and goofing about it.
Okay, let's have Theophilus Moro rejoin us now. Theophilus, you were saying something. Yes, go ahead. Oh, we're back there again. Crazy network today. Crazy network. Okay.
I think what Anu was saying just now, as regards both parties who are in quotes not friends, let me use that term, coming together and celebrating together. I think that's what politicians do in general. You get to see their supporters fighting themselves, attacking each other, trying to support their principle. But then you see the principals dining and whining together like nothing happens. Yeah. And it just goes to show that in this life, there's no stress. There's no reason for you to be stressed about anything at all. Regardless of the whole razzmatazz surrounding his confession, I'm trying to think about the family of MK Abiola right now. Yeah. I don't know if it gives them closure, because some persons were saying it gives them closure, makes them understand that, okay, fine, their father fought for something that was actually...
fought for something that stood for something.
Yes, but I don't know. How would I feel if I were in their shoes right now? Yeah. He was imprisoned. And 5 years after, he died. And a lot of persons felt it was due to the whole scenario, that deteriorated his health.
He even talked about the first coup that took place in Nigeria, mentioning names of all the actors and why they did what they did, and how all of that shaped the country. And Nigeria is yet to recover from all of those things that transpired. But I think that the most topical part of that book is the annulment of the June 12th election. Because that election was supposed to be a watershed in our electoral process, in our democratic process. And coming out to say MK Abiola actually won that election, but the powers that be twisted him and annulled it, saying that the paper that was used to make that announcement didn't have any presidential seal, wasn't signed, it was just a test statement. And before he knew what was happening, he was in Katsina, and then he heard that the election has been annulled. When you heard that, what did you do?
Exactly, because I'm feeling like you were part of it, whether you want to admit it or not. If they arm twisted you, if someone went behind your back to sabotage you, why didn't you come out immediately to say that this is not what your intention was in the first place? Why wait over 30 years to come and say that now? What good is it going to do
It's of no good. It's of no good. What with the fact that the man you're claiming took that decision, led other generals or other people to take that decision, is not alive. General Sani Abacha is not alive to either accept or deny whatever allegation or whatever statement that IBB has made as far as this book is concerned. And you look at that as an issue, it is a very, very big issue.
Absolutely. And interestingly, research and news had it that the June 12th election was one of the freest and fairest ever election in Nigeria. And to see how everything turned out is really pretty sad. Just as the chairman of the occasion, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, did say in his opening speech, he said that IBB should get ready for a different reaction, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because it's what is going to actually happen as the aftermath of, the release of the book.
Yeah, you mentioned that it was the freest, fairest election ever conducted in Nigeria, and it was so. I'm sure, like we said, you were not born then, but you know that, which is very key, because it was one election where the religious divide didn't matter. The tribal, ethnic divide didn't matter. What mattered was we wanted one individual who had the capacity to unite the country and project the country forward. But unfortunately, the powers that be didn't allow it because of whatever reason it was. If we had such an election as peaceful, transparent, and fair, what that meant was that going forward, we just lap up on that. Yes. We build on that. All right? And Professor Humphrey Uwosu, who was the then FEDECO, whatever the name was, chairman of INEC, who conducted the election, in spite of all the threats, went ahead and announced the results. I couldn't independently check to be so sure if those results were correct, but I saw a post which showed the spread and the state-by-state account of how the election went. That election was so peaceful, so free, but there was also a sad part of it because it was option A4. It means that if you come to vote, you stand behind the candidate that you are voting for, all right? And so we saw husband and wife, becoming enemies after the election. We saw landlords and tenants becoming enemies after the election, because you will know if they've been hiding, going for meetings secretly. On election day, you'll be on this queue, you'll be on this queue, and from here you can see your wife, from here you can see your tenant, and then all of that just. But it really would have helped to shape, the future of this country, but it was truncated, and from that moment, the country nosedived, because from there we had the government of Shoneko, interim national government, and then before you know what's happening, another evil genius, of blessed memory now, swept them aside, talking about General Abacha, and then Nigeria really saw what it means to be a dictator, because he went after the country with an iron fist, and those who fed the brunt, some of them are not even alive to tell the story today. So it's a very sad commentary in our political space, and it's our prayer that we do not go through such a journey again. But what does that mean? It means that if we have the right leadership in place, the country can really move forward.
Absolutely.
And that's been one of the major challenges we've had over the years since Nigeria gained independence. And I always wonder, why is it that those who took over from our heroes past, the Zigs, the Awos, the Tafawa Balewas, the Ahmadu Bello, and the rest of them, what did they learn from them in terms of governance, in terms of leadership, in terms of selflessness, in terms of impacting communities? When we see those who are in the corridors of power today, many of them benefited from such governance. Some of them enjoy free education. Some of them have the luxury and the privilege to be in the university, maybe in their final years or third years. Companies will come and pick them from the university, and we will start paying them. But we didn't enjoy that.
I mean, those were the guys who enjoyed the real and true Nigeria, with
those
free
who were in the university will tell you that while in the universities,
there was a stipend being paid.
Stipends were paid. And then there are people who come and take their clothes and wash their clothes.
Oh my God! Even free food.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
All of that. and interestingly, interestingly, the country still has the capacity to do that. Yeah. But what you find is that few have become wealthier than the country, and the country has become poorer, you know, and so it cannot meet the needs of its people. There's an avalanche, an abundance of natural resources across the country. All right, and if you study how the West has dominated Africa and various other countries in the world, you see all of these things playing out. You're talking about cultural imperialism. You're talking about post-colonialism. All of these things still exist, and you're wondering why many of these countries are the way they are, including Nigeria, is as a result of the influence of the Western world. US, Europe, UK, France. France adopted the policy of assimilation. You know, if you are colonized, you are just like them. But we have seen all the breakaway republics now. Right. Niger, Mali, and
Burkina Faso.
Burkina Faso. So it's quite sad. It's quite sad.
I just want to draw us back to IB, because this has really stirred something in me.
Yes.
Looking forward, someone comes out to make such a big reveal, such a big confession, and I'm feeling like a lot of persons are praising him. Is it not supposed to be termed a crime, what he did?
It's a crime.
So
absolutely.
When you commit a crime,
yes, you do the time.
Exactly. So I don't know if anything like that is going to occur.
Maybe those who are in authority, they are looking the other way. And I think he's over 80. Probably is getting closer to where where he's going. As a matter of fact, yeah.
So we had our president, the president of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu that day. With him, he was sitting at the left-hand side, laughing and giggling. So what do you expect? In fact, a lot of bodies have come out to say he should be, persecuted for what he did.
Some civil society have come out to say that,
right,
strongly.
So would that happen is the question. Well, I don't think so. I remember having a conversation with someone, and then the person said maybe only international bodies would be able to do anything regarding this case. But nationally, I don't think anything would actually occur as regards, having him being persecuted and all. But away from that, I would love us to also talk about another major highlight of the event on that day, which happened on Thursday, where we saw him talk about the presidential library. And we've also had reactions regarding it. And we saw billions, in fact, over 18 billion naira was donated on that day. Dangote specifically said that he's going to be giving 2 billion naira every single year just for that library to be, held. And this would be the second presidential library in Nigeria. The first one was done by Olusegun Obasanjo. So now the question is, someone was asking if he has the right to actually create or build that kind of library, being that he was not democratically elected as a president. He was just the military president as at then.
Well, the country recognizes him as a former military president or head of state, which is an equivalent of a military president, and all the rights and all the privileges that is supposed to go to such a person. He enjoys them, so he's eminently qualified in that regard. The concern really is that look at what value, benefit are these, libraries that has become a norm. Olusegun Obasanjo did it, and now he's taking a cue. Maybe when Bola Ahmed Tinubu leaves office, he will follow suit, or maybe President Jonathan is also thinking of one in that direction. So it just shows the culture of impunity amongst the elites. They always have a way of meeting. That's the point you raised.
Yes.
Their supporters will be killing themselves daytime, fighting themselves daytime, but at night, their principals will be hanging out in one club, one lounge, and flexing, enjoying themselves. And then they push these guys out there to be doing all of these rubbish. So that's why they say in politics, no permanent enemy, no permanent friend. Always permanent interest. And when those interests align, they will always come together. I mean, within the political space of Nigeria, you don't really have political parties that have defined ideologies. Right. Yeah, that's why they can switch over. You can be in party PDP, APC in the morning. In the afternoon, you'll be in
APC LP.
APC LP, right? And then in the evening, you are in NNPP.
Like a political transfer.
Yes, it's very easy. That fluidity is there. I mean, you see that in Nigeria policy, they tell you, okay, before you can move from one political party or decamp, there must maybe be a crisis, all right? But we are seeing now that some are just moving because they feel like moving. Senator Ned Nwoko moved from PDP to APC just a few weeks back, all right? And I heard the governor, according to him, was trying to convince him to stay back by giving him a Land Cruiser and then giving him a monthly, you know, payment of about 10 billion. And he said, no, he doesn't need that. He should use the money to take care of the constituent. But he just moved like that, all right?
It's shocking to see how they're just moving with 2027 in mind, and this was just 2025. Okay, like just like 2 years.
Every time it happens.
You know, it's just crazy.
Especially
really.
during election, you get to see a lot of persons decamping. I just feel like they have this mindset that it seems this side is going to win. Let me just quickly port so that I can enjoy the benefits once I get to the other side. And it just goes to show their mindsets. Personally, I feel like they don't have the conviction that their own party is where they should be. Like you rightly said, there's no set out ideology for each of these parties. There's no set out plan for each of these parties. And so the common interest, which is to win, to be in power, to control everything, is what they are looking out for. And so any party that seems to be gearing into that direction is where they want to be at the moment.
Yeah, the average politician thinks about the next election. So once the first term is signed, sealed, and delivered, maybe through victory, he starts putting his structures together for the next election. And that is why we have this system in place. They don't really perform that much. I remember that President Goodluck Jonathan, when he came on board, was proposing a 6-year single tenure. So when you come, you know that if you don't do well, posterity will not forgive you. So you must strive and strive to ensure that you make impact. But it didn't see the light of day because that was misinterpreted that he was trying to perpetuate himself in power. But if we have that system in place, you know, one single term of about 6 years, when you come on board, you just know that you are expected to perform. And if you don't perform, you leave. So what they do most times is governor comes in, president comes in, first year, he tries to do some things to win our hearts and our minds towards himself. And then by the time he gets the victory, in the second term, he goes to sleep. So some say that's when they recoup.
And gather their funds back.
So that's when they recoup. Now just check the trajectory. Most state chief executives, they do that. First tenure, they are jumping all over the place, doing all kind of things. Some of them will be leaking cement from one gutter to the other, just to ensure that everything is going on. I'm not referring to anybody. Just to ensure that everything is going on well. And then after the first tenure, they get second tenure, and then they are more relaxed. Whatever you say then will not get into their ears. They won't do anything about it. They won't do anything about it. And I think June 12 annulment contributed to a large extent to where we are today in this country. If that election wasn't annulled, and the confidence in the electoral process would have been stronger. Because if you look at the trajectory over the years, look at the number of registered voters, compare it to the number of people that actually comes out to vote. The difference is huge. So if you look at it comparatively to the Nigeria's population, you'll be confident to say that we are not practicing democracy. Because in a country of about maybe over 200 million people, how many people come out to vote? To vote in the president. Combine all the votes cast of Tinubu that won, Peter Obi, Atiku Abubakar, and maybe Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, combine it together.
It's not even up to half.
So what we're talking about? So this is the challenge that we have, because the electoral process has been so bastardized. People don't have interest in the electoral process. They don't have confidence in the electoral process. But we have a responsibility to change all of that by instilling those features in the electoral process that will make it solid in such a way that the electoral process will become fortified. Okay, look at the last general election. IBB'S has changed a lot of things. If you steal ballot boxes away, at the end of the day, it will be useless.
Yeah.
But the most important part of that electoral process is the collation of results and the announcement of the result. That wasn't captured in the Electoral Act. It gives INEC the latitude to decide which mode to adopt,
Yes.
whether a manual collation or electronic collation. And then there's one of my favorite, motivational speaker that I listen to talked about the path of least resistance, which is the manual, collation. So they'll just go there because that's easier to manipulate.
Right.
And so, but if we have, like we already have, it is made compulsory that results must be transmitted electronically.
Yes.
I mean, we'll have many of these charlatans that we have in the political space, they will give way for the real men to come. Because you know that right from the point of election, once the election is done, results are transmitted electronically to the INEC server. And from there, all the results. In fact, as a result, we see it now.
You can see it live, yes.
We can see it live. I mean, we see it on, international broadcast platform, the US election. As the election is going, they can even make predictions based on what is coming in, based on the history, based on the data available. But here you
South
can't.
Africa. It's
here you can't. You are watching the portal, you are seeing the result, increasing.
Yes.
Party A's result is increasing. Party B comes up, takes over. Party C comes up like that. Everything will just be going on smoothly. But until and unless we do that, we're just going, 2027 will just be a joke. The National Assembly has a responsibility to amend that component part of the Electoral Act to ensure that it is compulsory, it is mandatory, and it is criminal if you do not transmit election results electronically. And then we do away with manual voting. That's the only way we can bring confidence into the system.
Powers that be allow it happen?
Okay. The powers that be...
Huge question, because a lot of persons
the powers that be can only... they will not make it work, like you said, because of its benefit. Those who are in saddle now know probably if that happens, they may not be there when after post-2027. So they probably will fight. But the truth of the matter is that we want to have a free, fair, credible elections in 2027. Results of elections must be transmitted electronically.
Yes.
Because you saw that even at the tribunal, and then of course the Supreme Court, it talked about the fact that, INEC had the prerogative as to which mode of collation it can adopt,
yes.
whether it's manual or it is electronic, but they chose manual. So the law doesn't hold them. But if in that Electoral Act it was expressly stated that it's supposed to be done electronically, there won't be a problem. And now you saw what happened. INEC told Nigerians through the one of the national commissioner, Festus Okoye, that results will be transmitted electronically. Even the INEC chairman alluded to that. But when push came to a shove, everybody denied. And then, of course,
entirely.
It's crazy.
So we've seen several amendments happen several times, and then the question is, how effective would all of this be? I mean, during the last election, we saw that a lot of Nigerians, out of the blues, were so optimistic for reasons best known to them. It was going to be a different ballgame entirely, and then results came out, and we had different reactions to it. And there were now conversations on political apathy. So 2027 being around the corner, I don't know how Nigerians are going to actually do on that particular day. So that's also another conversation really entirely.
Right. If now we know that Nigeria had an election that was actually very free, very fair, and there was a landslide victory, everyone came out to vote in quotes. do you think that this would make people boost their motivation, encourage them to actually come out in 2027 and vote for their choice? And will it actually count this time around? A lot of persons don't bother coming out. Some girls will say they are going to their boyfriend's house for the weekend. That's when you get to see some person saying, I want to just go and hang out with my guys. They don't bother about coming. Because,
especially the younger people.
Yes, because they feel like it's of no use.
Yeah.
You're voting. Let's look at the last election, for instance. A lot of persons came out to vote. A lot of persons put their hearts, put their minds into voting. And at the end of the day, they felt like it was of no use.
Yeah.
Whoever they wanted to win did not eventually win. Yeah. And it was all still turned in the favor of those who wanted it to be in that direction. So basically, I'm wondering if his confession would actually boost the motivation of Nigerians to come out and put more confidence in the electoral process.
Well, I don't see that happening because you referenced the last election. What happened? The expectations were quite high,
yes,
but the result didn't meet the expectations of the average Nigerian. And I just mentioned something about what must be done in the Electoral Act to boost Nigerians' confidence. I was in a workshop in Lagos organized by INEC. I mean, brought a whole lot of anchors of political programs together to have a discussion on some of these issues. And we also saw some of the predicaments of INEC. So, we can throw all the shades, all the insults, accusations, and allegations against INEC. They are also handicapped because the law is there, but the law is limited in its application. We move past using card readers for accreditation to the bi-modal registration system where you can register and vote simultaneously. That's where we are now. The next stage is to use that equipment to transmit results electronically. And the National Assembly has a responsibility to make that happen. If we are not in a state of self-denial, that's what we need to do. That's the only way people can have confidence in the 2027 election. And then we go back and do massive enlightenment, massive voter education. It's not the one, this Kekebu voter, enlightenment that we do 3 weeks to election. No, that's not what we're talking about. If you follow the American election that brought Donald Trump on board, there were swing states that they knew ab initio what was going to happen. They devised a strategy to engage those states, right? Particularly some of those states dominated by black communities. And you saw the way people came out and they voted. Yes. There were data that show that the youths were not, keen in the election and all of that. They devised strategies to ensure that all of those engagements take place. But you see that even in the public enlightenment of our people to participate in the election is usually very, very poor. And that's why we see the kind of result that we'll see. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for 2027.